Graham, we start the Stewards Report. It was the Luke McCarthy show on Saturday night early in the program, and he picked up the first winner driving Blackberry Lane.
Yeah, it was a positive drive, made use of the good draw, Greg. We did have a short price favourite in Snow Cone, which to some people may have looked disappointing. We did ask Robert Morris for his explanation in respect of the performance, and his view was that given the sectionals, the last 800 was running about 54.9. He thought a task from get back in the field was probably made quite difficult, and he was very pleased actually in the way she got to the line. He did make the observation that in his opinion he thinks Snow Cone is better driven when able to make runs between other runners, and that wasn't the case on Saturday night.
Okay, so that was a Snow Cone in that race, and also Annie Morva.
Yeah, look, I think it was quite brave from sitting in the death, and basically I think ran a very honest third. We did question Blake Fitzpatrick in relation to his use of the whip in breach of a steward's direction, and subsequently Mr Fitzpatrick was suspended for a period of 7 days, which commenced on Saturday evening.
All right, what about in race number 2? And this was the race that Luke brought up his 2000th Australian winner with Birdie Mac.
Yes, we approved applications from the connections of Birdie Mac to drive that horse more aggressively, and it was driven accordingly, and also from Mr Wilson's Sevens Hope, because of his thoughts that it was an apparent better class race, and it appeared to be. Sevens Hope was driven more conservatively than it had been in its recent starts in the lower grade. Look, basically just too good for them, Birdie Mac, given the run in the race that it had.
All right, what about in race number 3? And we saw Time Seal, who had been really good in recent races in the smaller field. Better suited and was able to win.
Yes, convert his recent form, I think, probably made task made a little bit easier for Lucky Voodoo being out of position at the start. Brad Elder stated that he had some issues with that horse coming up to the gate. The horse did gallop in the score-up. Subsequently, stewards issued a warning. We did fine Brad Elder $150 for being not coming into his rightful position, and it should be noted that as a consequence of him not coming to his rightful position, the horses drawn to his outside, being Chance, Time Seal, I'm the Agent and Quick Reflection, were also taken up the track and effectively have started from the wrong position. Having looked at the race, we were satisfied that no runner was impeded to want to call them a non-runner. But punters may take that into consideration when trying to evaluate the performance of those horses.
All right, what about race number 4? We saw Maywin Zephyr.
Yeah, look, a horse that's relatively new to our state, and has been with the Morris stable or the Kerry Ann Turner stable, I think, on two previous starts, maybe its third start. I guess the issue for the race for us, firstly, was that Waste of Time and Admiral's Joy were out of position at the start. Both Mr Giles, the driver of Waste of Time, and Todd McCarthy, the driver of Admiral's Joy, were penalised as a consequence of that. Admiral's Joy, we did question Mr Pizzuto, who had 2 runners in the race, as to his intended tactics in Admiral's Joy. Its previous run was driven back with a change of tactics, came with 1 run and was quite assertive on that occasion. Mr Pizzuto eventually concluded that he'd drive the horse the same way on this occasion. Todd McCarthy was perhaps a victim of circumstances to our mind, in that he couldn't really flush anything out to get him going sooner than he did. He had to make all the work himself, and in the end he just failed. It was a good run, and I think ran right up to its previous effort.
What about race number 5? This was the fast class of the night. Glenferrie Hood, punters probably disappointed on paper with its performance. Yes,
look, it was out of position at the start, but we did take on face value Luke McCarthy's explanation. Gaius Caesar and Freiburg were also out of position at the start, and consequently both Lauren Pinella and David Morris were fined $100 for being out of position. Luke McCarthy did explain to us after the race that he was disappointed in the effort of Glenferrie Hood. He was surprised that the horse was off the bit and inclined to hang in as the pace increased, probably in the vicinity of the 600 or 700 metres. The only explanation that he could come up with, Greg, was that this was now Glenferrie's Hood's third start in 3 weeks. It had resumed from a spell and had raced week in, and he felt that the only explanation he could come up with was perhaps that had worked against the horse, and he would look to probably space the horse's races in future. Okay. Look, the race was just dominated, I think, by a very good positive drive from Devendra, James Rattray on Devendra, which was having, I think, its second start in our state, and basically looks a horse that'll be progressive.
All right, so that was Devendra's race 5. Now, race number 6, the Franco-Australian Trotters final, and this one was taken out by Glenferrie Dreamer.
Yeah, look, a little incident at the start where both Flying Isa and Edge Hill got themselves tied up in trying to avoid Glendalough, which had galloped at the start. After they sorted themselves out, Flying Isa went around, worked forward and grabbed the lead, and at the 1400 metres the stablemate and eventual winner Glenferrie Dreamer did work up on the outside. There's some the stewards had some interest in the manner in which Mr McCarthy had handed up to Glenferrie Dreamer, but we took the view, in having regard to the way the race panned out thereafter, that Flying Isa was in the end a well-beaten commodity, and it was really, I guess, the issue of when and if he handed up was to some extent negated by the finishing effort of both horses. Glenferrie Dreamer was quite strong to the line, was quite strong through from the 1400 to the top of the back straight, and at some stage Mr McCarthy would have had to make a decision, I think, to let the other horse go. So the stewards in the end determined to take no interest in that.
All right, so that was race number 6. What about race number 7?
Look, basically, from our perspective, it was a non-event. We did have our Smart Caesar examined. There was nothing that could be put to us. There was no visible abnormalities. The race was won by the Dip, who was returning to New South Wales after he won a race here about 3 months ago, and returned after a stint in Victoria. He was brought here the other day by Gavin Douglas, and raced well without coming under notice, and was again driven back as he was in his previous win here, and come with one late run, and basically was too strong for them.
And the last acclaimer, this was taken out by another former Victorian, Composed, now with Todd McCarthy. Yeah,
look, this horse won here on Fisher's Ghost Day for Josh Aitken, and I think he ran up to that good form. He had a very nice run in the race, and things worked out for him, and he may well be, despite the fact that it's a claiming race, he may well have another win in him somewhere along the line.
And just going back to Friday's meeting, there were a couple of races and a couple of driving suspensions that we best mention. Races 4, 5 and 7, I guess, are probably of most interest for the viewers.
Yeah, it was a pretty busy afternoon for us, an evening for us in the end, Greg. In race 4, Josh Willick did plead guilty to a charge in that he forced Skewbridge Road to cover more ground than necessary, Regal Stride more ground than necessary. He was suspended for a period of 7 days, which commences this Saturday night. Mm-hmm. If we go to race 5, Jim Douglas pleaded guilty to a charge of interference on the first turn to O'Reilly, and he was suspended for a period of 14 days to commence on this Saturday night also. And then in race 7, we had another first turn offence in Cameron Jones on Macca Kelly, shifted down when not clear of Juster Dale, resulting in that horse being checked, and as a consequence his licence was suspended for a period of 10 days, and that commenced last Saturday night, so he's still got another week to go.
All right, so we've seen a few drivers suspended out of that meeting on Friday afternoon.
Yes, unusually, Greg, we don't see that interference as a rule at Menangle, but obviously when it occurs we have to deal with it.
All right, Graham, thanks for that, and we'll speak with you next week.
Thanks, Greg.